In Search of the Miraculous, Chapter 5. We take the three-dimensional universe and consider the world as a world of matter and force in the simplest and most elementary meaning of these terms. Higher dimensions and new theories of matter, space and time, as well as other categories of knowledge of the world which are unknown to science, we will discuss later. At present, it is necessary to represent the universe in the diagrammatic form of the ray of creation, from the absolute to the moon. The ray of creation seems at the first glance to be a very elementary plan of the universe, but actually, as one studies it further, it becomes clear that with the help of this simple plan, it is possible to bring into accord and to make into a single whole a multitude of various and conflicting philosophical as well as religious and scientific views of the world. The idea of the ray of creation belongs to ancient knowledge, and many of the naive geocentric systems of the universe known to us are actually either incompetent expositions of the idea of the ray of creation, or distortions of this idea due to literal understanding. It must be observed that the idea of the ray of creation and its growth from the absolute contradicts some of the modern views, although not really scientific views. Take, for instance, the stage Sun, Earth, Moon. According to the usual understanding, the moon is a cold, dead, celestial body, which was once like the Earth, that is to say, it possessed internal heat, and at a still earlier period was a molten mass like the Sun. The Earth, according to the usual views, was once like the Sun, and is also gradually cooling down, and sooner or later will become a frozen mass like the moon. It is usually supposed that the Sun is also cooling down, and that it will become, in time, similar to the Earth, and later on to the moon. First of all, of course, it must be remarked that this view cannot be called scientific in the strict sense of the term, because in science, that is, in astronomy, or rather in astrophysics, there are many different and contradictory hypotheses and theories on the subject, none of which has any serious foundation. But this view is the one most widely spread, and one which has become the view of the average man of modern times in regard to the world in which we live. The idea of the ray of creation and its growth from the absolute contradicts these general views of our day. According to this idea, the moon is still an unborn planet, one that is, so to speak, being born. It is becoming warm gradually, and in time, given a favourable development of the ray of creation, it will become like the Earth and have a satellite of its own, a new moon. A new link will have been added to the ray of creation. The Earth, too, is not getting colder, it is getting warmer, and may in time become like the Sun. We observe such a process, for instance, in the system of Jupiter, which is a sun for its satellites. Summing up all that has been said before about the ray of creation, from world 1 down to world 96, it must be added that the figures by which worlds are designated indicate the number of forces or orders of laws which govern the worlds in question. In the absolute, there is only one force and only one law, the single and independent will of the absolute. In the next world, there are 3 or 4 forces or 3 orders of laws. In the next, there are 6 orders of laws, in the following one 12, and so on. In our world, that is, the Earth, 48 orders of laws are operating to which we are subject, and by which our whole life is governed. If we lived on the moon, we should be subject to 96 orders of laws, that is, our life and activity would be still more mechanical, and we should not have the possibilities of escape from mechanicalness that we now have. As has been said already, the will of the Absolute is only manifested in the immediate world created by it within itself. That is, in world 3, the immediate will of the Absolute does not reach world 6, and is manifested in it only in the form of mechanical laws. Further on, in worlds 12, 24, 48 and 96, the will of the Absolute has less and less possibility of manifesting itself. This means that in world 3, the Absolute creates, as it were, a general plan of all the rest of the universe, which is then further developed mechanically. The will of the Absolute cannot manifest itself in subsequent worlds apart from this plan, and, in manifesting itself in accordance with this plan, it takes the form of mechanical laws. This means that if the Absolute wanted to manifest its will, say in our world, in opposition to the mechanical laws in operation there, it would then have to destroy all the worlds intermediate between itself and our world. The idea of a miracle in the sense of a violation of laws by the will which made them is not only contrary to common sense, but to the very idea of will itself. A miracle can only be a manifestation of laws which are unknown to men or rarely met with. A miracle is the manifestation in this world of the laws of another world. On the earth we are very far removed from the will of the Absolute. We are separated from it by 48 orders of mechanical laws. If we could free ourselves from one half of these laws, we should find ourselves subject to only 24 orders of laws, that is, to the laws of the planetary world, and then we should be one stage nearer to the Absolute and its will. If we could then free ourselves from one half of these laws, we should be subject to the laws of the Sun, 12 laws, and consequently one stage nearer still to the Absolute. If again we could free ourselves from half of these laws, we should be subject to the laws of the starry world and separated by only one stage from the immediate will of the Absolute. And the possibility for man thus gradually to free himself from mechanical laws exists. The study of the 48 orders of laws to which man is subject cannot be abstract like the study of astronomy. They can be studied only by observing them in oneself and by getting free from them. At the beginning, a man must simply understand that he is quite needlessly subject to 1,000 petty but irksome laws which have been created for him by other people and by himself. When he attempts to get free from them, he will see that he cannot. Long and persistent attempts to gain freedom from them will convince him of his slavery. The laws to which man is subject can only be studied by struggling with them, by trying to get free from them. But a great deal of knowledge is needed in order to become free from one law without creating for oneself another in its place. The orders of laws and their forms vary according to the point of view from which we consider the ray of creation. In our system, the end of the ray of creation, the growing end, so to speak, of the branch is the moon. The energy for the growth, that is, for the development of the moon and for the formation of new shoots, goes to the moon from the earth, where it is created by the joint action of the sun, of all the other planets of the solar system, and of the earth itself. This energy is collected and preserved in a large accumulator situated on the earth's surface. This accumulator is organic life on earth. Organic life on earth feeds the moon. Everything living on the earth, people, animals, plants, is food for the moon. The moon is a huge living being feeding upon all that lives and grows on the earth. The moon could not exist without organic life on earth, any more than organic life on earth could exist without the moon. Moreover, in relation to organic life, the moon is a huge electromagnetic. If the action of the electromagnet were suddenly to stop, organic life would crumble to nothing. The process of the growth and the warming of the moon is connected with life and death on the earth. Everything living sets free at its death a certain amount of the energy that has animated it. This energy, or the souls of everything living, plants, animal, people, is attracted to the moon as though by a huge electromagnet, and brings to it the warmth and the life upon which its growth depends, that is, the growth of the ray of creation. In the economy of the universe, nothing is lost, and a certain energy, having finished its work on one plane, goes to another. The souls that go to the moon, possessing perhaps even a certain amount of consciousness and memory, find themselves there under 96 laws, in the conditions of mineral life, or to put it differently, in conditions from which there is no escape apart from a general evolution in immeasurably long planetary cycles. The moon is at the extremity, at the end of the world. It is the outer darkness of the Christian doctrine, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. The influence of the moon upon everything living manifests itself in all that happens on the earth. The moon is the chief, or rather the nearest, the immediate motive force of all that takes place in organic life on the earth. All movements, actions and manifestations of people, animals and plants depend upon the moon and are controlled by the moon. The sensitive film of organic life which covers the earthly globe is entirely dependent upon the influence of the huge electromagnet that is sucking out its vitality. Man, like every other living being, cannot, in the ordinary conditions of life, tear himself free from the moon. All his movements and consequently all his actions are controlled by the moon. If he kills another man, the moon does it. If he sacrifices himself for others, the moon does that also. All evil deeds, all crimes, all self-sacrificing actions, all heroic exploits, as well as all the actions of ordinary everyday life are controlled by the moon. The liberation which comes with the growth of mental powers and faculties in liberation from the moon, the mechanical part of our life depends upon the moon, is subject to the moon. If we develop in ourselves consciousness and will, and subject our mechanical life and all our mechanical manifestations to them, we shall escape from the power of the moon. The next idea which is necessary to master is the materiality of the universe, which is taken in the form of the ray of creation. Everything in this universe can be weighed and measured. The Absolute is as material, as weighable and measurable as the moon or as man. If the Absolute is God, it means that God can be weighed and measured, resolved into component elements, calculated and expressed in the form of a definite formula. But the concept materiality is as relative as everything else. If we recall how the concept man and all that refers to him, good, evil, truth, falsehood and so on, is divided into different categories, man number 1, man number 2 and so on, it will be easy for us to understand that the concept world and everything that refers to the world is also divided into different categories. The ray of creation establishes 7 planes in the world, 7 worlds one within another. Everything that refers to the world is also divided into 7 categories, one category within another. The materiality of the Absolute is a materiality of an order different from that of all worlds. The materiality of all worlds is of an order different from the materiality of all suns. The materiality of all suns is of an order different from the materiality of our sun. The materiality of our sun is of an order different from the materiality of all planets. The materiality of all planets is of an order different from the materiality of the Earth. And the materiality of the Earth is of an order different from the materiality of the Moon. This idea is at first difficult to grasp. People are accustomed to think that matter is everywhere the same. The whole of physics, of astrophysics, of chemistry, such methods as spectroanalysis and so on, are based upon this assumption. And it is true that matter is the same, but materiality is different. And different degrees of materiality depend directly upon the qualities and properties of the energy manifested at a given point. Matter or substance necessarily presupposes the existence of force or energy. This does not mean that a dualistic conception of the world is necessary. The concepts of matter and force are as relative as everything else. In the Absolute, where all is one, matter and force are also one. But in this connection, matter and force are not taken as real principles of the world in itself, but as properties or characteristics of the phenomenal world observed by us. To begin the study of the universe, it is sufficient to have an elementary idea of matter and energy, such as we get by immediate observation through our organs of sense. The constant is taken as material, as matter, and changes in the state of the constant, or of matter, are called manifestations of force or energy. All these changes can be regarded as the result of vibrations or angularity motions which begin in the centre, that is, in the Absolute, and go in all directions, crossing one another, colliding and merging together until they stop altogether at the end of the ray of creation. From this point of view, then, the world consists of vibrations and matter, or of matter in a state of vibration, of vibrating matter. The rate of vibration is in adverse ratio to the density of matter. In the absolute, vibrations are the most rapid and matter is the least dense. In the next world, vibrations are slower and matter denser, and further on, matter is still more dense and vibrations correspondingly slower. Matter may be regarded as consisting of atoms. Atoms in this connection are taken also as the result of the final division of matter. In every order of matter, they are simply certain small particles of the given matter, which are indivisible only on the given plane. The atoms of the Absolute alone are really indivisible. The atom of the next plane, that is, of world 3, consists of 3 atoms of the Absolute, or, in other words, it is 3 times bigger and 3 times heavier, and its movements are correspondingly slow. The atom of world 6 consists of 6 atoms of the Absolute, merged together, as it were, and forming 1 atom. Its movements are correspondingly slower. The atom of the next world consists of 12 primordial particles, and of the next worlds of 24, 48 and 96. The atom of world 96 is of an enormous size compared with the atom of the world 1. Its movements are correspondingly slower, and the matter which is made up of such atoms is correspondingly denser. The 7 worlds of the ray of creation represent 7 orders of materiality. The materiality of the moon is different from the materiality of the earth. The materiality of the earth is different from the materiality of the planetary world. The materiality of the planetary world is different from the materiality of the sun, and so on. Thus, instead of 1 concept of matter, we have 7 kinds of matter, but our ordinary conception of materiality only with difficulty embraces the materiality of worlds 96 and 48. The matter of world 24 is much too rarefied to be regarded as matter from the scientific point of view of our physics and chemistry. Such matter is practically hypothetical. The still finer matter of world 12 has, for ordinary investigation, no characteristics of materiality at all. All these matters belonging to the various orders of the universe are not separated into layers, but are intermixed, or rather they interpenetrate one another. We can get an idea of similar interpenetration of matters of different densities from the penetration of one matter by another matter of different densities known to us. A piece of wood may be saturated with water. Water may in its turn be filled with gas. Exactly the same relation between different kinds of matter may be observed in the whole of the universe. The finer matters permeate the coarser ones. Matter that possesses characteristics of materiality comprehensible to us is divided for us into several states according to its density: solid, liquid, gaseous. Further gradations of matter are radiant energy, that is electricity, light, magnetism, and so on. But on every plane, that is to say, in every order of materiality, similar relations and divisions of the various states of a given matter may be found. But, as has been already said, matter of a higher plane is not material at all for the lower planes. All the matter of the world that surrounds us, the food that we eat, the water that we drink, the air that we breathe, the stones that our houses are built of, our own bodies, everything is permeated by all the matters that exist in the universe. There is no need to study or investigate the sun in order to discover the matter of the solar world. This matter exists in ourselves and is the result of the division of our atoms. In the same way, we have in us the matter of all other worlds. Man is, in the full sense of the term, a miniature universe. In him are all the matters of which the universe consists. The same forces, the same laws that govern the life of the universe operate in him. Therefore, in studying man, we can study the whole world, just as in studying the world we can study man. But a complete parallel between man and the world can only be drawn if we take man in the full sense of the word, that is, a man whose inherent powers are developed. An undeveloped man, a man who has not completed the course of his evolution, cannot be taken as a complete picture or plan of the universe. He is an unfinished world. As has been said already, the study of oneself must go side by side with the study of the fundamental laws of the universe. The laws are the same everywhere and on all planes. But the very same laws manifesting themselves in different worlds, that is, under different conditions, produce different phenomena. The study of the relation of laws to the planes upon which they are manifested brings us to the study of relativity. The idea of relativity occupies a very important place in this teaching, and later on we shall return to it. But before anything else, it is necessary to understand the relativity of each being and of each manifestation according to the place it occupies in the cosmic order. We are on the earth, and we depend entirely upon the laws that are operating on the earth. The earth is a very bad place from the cosmic point of view. It is like the most remote part of northern Siberia, very far from everywhere. It is cold, life is very hard. Everything that in another place either comes by itself or is easily obtained is here acquired only by hard labour. Everything must be fought for, both in life and in the work. In life it still happens sometimes that a man gets a legacy and afterwards lives without doing anything. But such a thing does not happen in the work. All are equal, and all are equally beggars. Returning to the law of three, one must learn to find the manifestations of this law in everything we do and in everything we study. The application of this law in any sphere at once reveals much that is new, much that we did not see before. Take chemistry, for instance. Ordinary science does not know of the law of three, and it studies matter without taking into consideration its cosmic properties. But besides ordinary chemistry, there exists another, a special chemistry, or alchemy if you like, which studies matter taking into consideration its cosmic properties. As has been said before, the cosmic properties of each substance are determined first by its place, and secondly by the force which is acting through it at the given moment. Even in the same place, the nature of a given substance undergoes a great change dependent upon the force which is being manifested through it. Each substance can be the conductor of any one of the three forces, and, in accordance with this, it can be active, passive, or neutralising, and it can be neither the first nor the second nor the third, if no force is manifesting through it at the given moment, or if it is taken without relation to the manifestation of forces. In this way, every substance appears, as it were, in four different aspects or states. In this connection, it must be noted that when we speak of matter, we do not speak of chemical elements. The special chemistry of which I speak looks upon every substance having a separate function, even the most complex, as an element. In this way only is it possible to study the cosmic properties of matter, because all complex compounds have their own cosmic purpose and significance. From this point of view, an atom of a given substance is the smallest amount of the given substance which retains all its chemical, physical, and cosmic properties. Consequently, the size of the atom of different substances is not the same, and in some cases an atom may be a particle even visible to the naked eye. The four aspects or states of every substance have definite names. When a substance is the conductor of the first or the active force, it is called carbon, and, like the carbon of chemistry, it is designated by the letter C. When a substance is the conductor of the second or the passive force, it is called oxygen, and, like the oxygen of chemistry, it is designated by the letter O. When a substance is the conductor of the third or neutralising force, it is called nitrogen, and like the nitrogen of chemistry, it is designated by the letter N. When a substance is taken without relation to the force manifesting itself through it, it is called hydrogen, and like the hydrogen of chemistry, it is designated by the letter H. The active, the passive, and the neutralising forces are designated by the figures 1, 2, 3, and the substances by the letters C, O, N and H. These designations must be understood. Do these 4 elements correspond to the old 4 alchemical elements, fire, air, water, earth? Asked one of us. Yes, they do correspond, said G, but we will use these. You will understand why afterwards. What I had heard interested me very much, for it connected G's system with the system of the tarot, which had seemed to me at one time to be a possible key to hidden knowledge. Moreover, it showed me a relation of 3 to 4, which was new to me, and which I had not been able to understand from the tarot. The tarot is definitely constructed upon the law of 4 principles. Until now, G had spoken only of the law of 3 principles, but now I saw how 3 passed into 4, and understood the necessity for this division, so long as the division of force and matter exists for our immediate observation. 3 referred to force, and 4 referred to matter. Of course, the further meaning of this was still obscure for me, but even the little that G said promised a great deal for the future. In addition, I was very interested in the names of the elements: carbon, oxygen, nitrogen and hydrogen. I must here remark that although G had definitely promised to explain precisely why these names were taken and not others, he never did so. Later on I shall return once again to these names. Attempts to establish the origin of these names explain to me a great deal concerning the whole of G's system as well as its history. At one of the meetings, to which a fairly large number of new people had been invited who had not heard G before, he was asked the question, "Is man immortal or not?" "I shall try to answer this question," said G, "but I warn you that this cannot be done fully enough with the material to be found in ordinary knowledge and in ordinary language. You ask whether man is immortal or not. I shall answer both yes and no. This question has many different sides to it. First of all, what does immortal mean? Are you speaking of absolute immortality, or do you admit different degrees? If, for instance, after the death of the body, something remains which lives for some time preserving its consciousness, can this be called immortality or not? Or let us put it this way, how long a period of such existence is necessary for it to be called immortality? Then does this question include the possibility of a different immortality for different people? And there are still many other different questions. I am saying this only in order to show how vague they are, and how easily such words as immortality can lead to illusion. In actual fact, nothing is immortal, even God is mortal. But there is a great difference between man and God, and, of course, God is mortal in a different way to man. It would be much better if for the word immortality we substitute the words existence after death. Then I will answer that man has the possibility of existence after death. But possibility is one thing, and the realization of the possibility is quite a different thing. Let us now try to see what this possibility depends upon and what its realization means. Then G repeated briefly all that had been said before about the structure of man and the world. He drew the diagram of the ray of creation and the diagram of the 4 bodies of man. But in relation to the bodies of man, he introduced a detail which we had not had before. He again used the Eastern comparison of man with a carriage, horse, driver and master, and drew the diagram with one addition that was not there before. Man is a complex organisation, he said, consisting of 4 parts which may be connected or unconnected or badly connected. The carriage is connected with the horse by shafts, the horse is connected with the driver by reins, and the driver is connected with the master by the master's voice. But the driver must hear and understand the master's voice. He must know how to drive, and the horse must be trained to obey the reins. As to the relation between the horse and the carriage, the horse must be properly harnessed. Thus there are 3 connections between the 4 sections of this complex organisation. If something is lacking in one of the connections, the organisation cannot act as a single whole. The connections are therefore no less important than the actual bodies. Working on himself, man works simultaneously on the bodies and on the connections, but it is different work. Work on oneself must begin with the driver. The driver is the mind. In order to be able to hear the master's voice, the driver, first of all, must not be asleep. That is, he must wake up. Then it may prove that the master speaks a language that the driver does not understand. The driver must learn this language. When he has learned it, he will understand the master. But, concurrently with this, he must learn to drive the horse, to harness it to the carriage, to feed and groom it, and to keep the carriage in order. Because what would be the use of his understanding the master if he is not in a position to do anything? The master tells him to go yonder, but he is unable to move because the horse has not been fed, it is not harnessed, and he does not know where the reins are. The horse is our emotions. The carriage is the body. The mind must learn to control the emotions. The emotions always pull the body after them. This is the order in which work on oneself must proceed. But observe again that work on the bodies, that is, on the driver, the horse and the carriage, is one thing. And work on the connections, that is, on the driver's understanding, which unites him to the master, on the reins, which connect him with the horse, and on the shafts and the harness, which connect the horse with the carriage, is quite another thing. It sometimes happens that the bodies are quite good and in order, but that the connections are not working. What then is the use of the whole organisation? Just as in the case of undeveloped bodies, the whole organisation is inevitably controlled from below, that is, not by the will of the master, but by accident. In a man with two bodies, the second body is active in relation to the physical body. This means that the consciousness in the astral body may have power over the physical body. G put a plus over the astral body and a minus over the physical. In a man with three bodies, the third or mental body is active in relation to the astral body and to the physical body. This means that the consciousness in the mental body has complete power over the astral body and over the physical body. G put a plus over the mental body and a minus over the astral and the physical bodies bracketed together. In a man with four bodies, the active body is the fourth. This means that the consciousness in the fourth body has complete power over the mental, the astral and the physical bodies. G put a plus over the fourth body and a minus over the other three bracketed together. As you see, he said, there exist four quite different situations. In one case, all the functions are controlled by the physical body. It is active. In relation to it, everything else is passive. In another case, the second body has power over the physical. In the third case, the mental body has power over the astral and the physical. And in the last case, the fourth body has power over the first three. We have seen before that in man of physical body only, exactly the same order of relationship is possible between his various functions. The physical functions may control feeling, thought and consciousness. Feeling may control the physical functions, thought may control the physical functions and feeling, and consciousness may control the physical functions, feeling and thought. In man of 2, 3 and 4 bodies, the most active body also lies the longest. That is, it is immortal in relation to a lower body. He again drew the diagram of the ray of creation, and by the side of earth he placed the physical body of man. This is ordinary man, he said, man number 1, 2, 3 and 4. He has only the physical body. The physical body dies and nothing is left of it. The physical body is composed of earthly material, and at death it returns to earth. It is dust, and to dust it returns. It is impossible to talk of any kind of immortality for a man of this sort. But if a man has the second body, he placed the second body on the diagram parallel to the planets. This second body is composed of material of the planetary world, and it can survive the death of the physical body. It is not immortal in the full sense of the word, because after a certain period of time it also dies. But at any rate, it does not die with the physical body. If a man has the third body, he placed the third body on the diagram parallel to the sun. It is composed of material of the sun, and it can exist after the death of the astral body. The fourth body is composed of material of the starry world, that is, of material that does not belong to the solar system, and therefore, if it has crystallized within the limits of the solar system, there is nothing within this system that could destroy it. This means that a man possessing the fourth body is immortal within the limits of the solar system. You see, therefore, why it is impossible to answer at once the question, is man immortal or not? One man is immortal, another is not. A third tries to become immortal. A fourth considers himself immortal, and is therefore simply a lump of flesh. When G went to Moscow, our permanent group met without him. There remain in my memory several talks in our group which were connected with what we had recently heard from G. We had many talks about the idea of miracles, and about the fact that the Absolute cannot manifest its will in our world, and that this will manifests itself only in the form of mechanical laws, and cannot manifest itself by violating these laws. I do not remember which of us was first to remember a well-known, though not very respectful school story, in which we at once saw an illustration of this law. The story is about an over-aged student of a seminary who, at a final examination, does not understand the idea of God's omnipotence. "Well, give me an example of something that the Lord cannot do," said the examining bishop. "It won't take long to do that, Your Eminence," answered the seminarists. "Everyone knows that even the Lord himself cannot beat the ace of trumps with the ordinary deuce." Nothing could be more clear. There was more sense in this silly story than in 1,000 theological treatises. The laws of a game make the essence of the game. A violation of these laws would destroy the entire game. The Absolute can as little interfere in our life and substitute other results in the place of the natural results of causes created by us, or created accidentally, as he can beat the ace of trumps with the deuce. Turgenev wrote somewhere that all ordinary prayers can be reduced to one. "Lord, make it so that twice two be not four." This is the same thing as the ace of trumps of the seminarist. Another talk was about the moon and its relation to organic life on Earth. And again, one of our group found a very good example showing the relation of the moon to organic life. The moon is the weight on a clock. Organic life is the mechanism of the clock brought into motion by the weight. The gravity of the weight, the pull of the chain on the cogwheel, set in motion the wheels and the hands of the clock. If the weight is removed, all movements in the mechanism of the clock will at once stop. The moon is a colossal weight hanging on to organic life and thus setting it in motion. Whatever we may be doing, whether it is good or bad, clever or stupid, all the movements of the wheels and the hands of our organism depend upon this weight, which is continually exerting its pressure upon us. Personally, I was very interested in the question of relativity in connection with place, that is, with place in the world. I had long since come to the idea of a relativity dependent upon the interrelation of size and velocities. But the idea of place, in the cosmic order, was entirely new both to me and to all the others. How strange it was for me when, some time later, I became convinced that it was the same thing. In other words, that size and velocity determined the place, and the place determined size and velocity. I remember yet another talk that took place during the same period. Someone asked him about the possibility of a universal language. In what connection I do not remember. "A universal language is possible," said G, "only people will never invent it." "Why not?" asked one of us. "First, because it was invented a long time ago," answered G, "and second, because to understand this language and to express ideas in it depends not only upon the knowledge of this language, but also on being. I will say even more. There exists not one, but 3 universal languages. The first of them can be spoken and written while remaining within the limits of one's own language. The only difference is that when people speak in their ordinary language, they do not understand one another, but in this other language they do understand. In the second language, written language is the same for all peoples, like, say, figures or mathematics, but people still speak their own language, yet each of them understands the other, even though the other speaks in an unknown language. The third language is the same for all, both the written and the spoken. The difference of language disappears altogether on this level. Is not this the same thing which is described in the Acts as the descent of the Holy Ghost upon the apostles, when they began to understand divers languages? Asked someone. I noticed that such questions always irritated G. I don't know, I wasn't there, he said. But on other occasions, some opportune question led to new and unexpected explanations. Someone asked on one occasion during a talk whether there was anything real and leading to some end in the teachings and rites of existing religions. Yes and no, said G. Imagine that we are sitting here talking of religions and that the maid Marcia hears our conversation. She of course understands it in her own way, and she repeats what she has understood to the porter Ivan. The porter Ivan again understands it in his own way, and he repeats what he has understood to the coachman Peter next door. The coachman Peter goes to the country and recounts in the village what the gentry talk about in town. Do you think that what he recounts will at all resemble what we said? This is precisely the relation between existing religions and that which was their basis. You get teachings, traditions, prayers, rites, not at 5th, but at 25th hand, and of course almost everything has been distorted beyond recognition and everything essential forgotten long ago. For instance, in all the denominations of Christianity, a great part is played by the tradition of the Last Supper of Christ and his disciples. Liturgies and a whole series of dogmas, rites and sacraments are based upon it. This has been a ground for schism, for the separation of churches, for the formation of sects. How many people have perished because they would not accept this or that interpretation of it? But, as a matter of fact, nobody understands what this was precisely, or what was done by Christ and his disciples that evening. There exists no explanation that even approximately resembles the truth, because what is written in the Gospels has been, in the first place, much distorted in being copied and translated, and secondly, it was written for those who know. To those who do not know, it can explain nothing, but the more they try to understand it, the deeper they are led into error. To understand what took place at the Last Supper, it is first of all necessary to know certain laws. You remember what I said about the astral body? Let us go over it briefly. People who have an astral body can communicate with one another at a distance without having recourse to ordinary physical means. But for such communication to be possible, they must establish some connection between them. For this purpose, when going to different places or different countries, people sometimes take with them something belonging to another, especially things that have been in contact with his body and are permeated with his emanations, and so on. In the same way, in order to maintain a connection with a dead person, his friends used to keep objects which had belonged to him. These things leave, as it were, a trace behind them, something like invisible wires or threads which remain stretched out through space. These threads connect a given object with the person, living or in certain cases dead, to whom the object belonged. Men have known this from the remotest antiquity and have made various uses of this knowledge. Traces of it may be found among the customs of many peoples. You know, for instance, that several nations have the custom of blood brotherhood. 2 men or several men mix their blood together in the same cup and then drink from this cup. After that they are regarded as brothers by blood. But the origin of this custom lies deeper. In its origin it was a magical ceremony for establishing a connection between astral bodies. Blood has special qualities, and certain peoples, for instance the Jews, ascribed a special significance of magical properties to blood. Now, you see, if a connection between astral bodies has been established, then, again, according to the beliefs of certain nations, it is not broken by death. Christ knew that he must die. It had been decided thus beforehand. He knew it and his disciples knew it. And each one knew what part he had to play. But at the same time they wanted to establish a permanent link with Christ. And for this purpose he gave them his blood to drink and his flesh to eat. It was not bread and wine at all, but real flesh and real blood. The Last Supper was a magical ceremony similar to blood brotherhood for establishing a connection between astral bodies. But who is there who knows about this in existing religions, and who understands what it means? All this has been long forgotten, and everything has been given quite a different meaning. The words have remained, but their meaning has long been lost. This lecture, and particularly its ending, provoked a great deal of talk in our groups. Many were repelled by what G said about Christ and the Last Supper. Others, on the contrary, felt in this a truth which they never could have reached by themselves.